tend to disagree with Mike on the statement on this album, but there's no nines or tens on here. I found a couple, and I'll get into those in a minute. But Mike, I 100% agree with you on the experimentation part. That's what side projects should be for. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, experimentation to an extent is good, but when you're a band and you start releasing things that just don't sound like you at all, that's where I start to draw issue. Because if I wanted something like Acidic or Adderall or Heirloom, I would go to a different band. I don't want to go to Slipknot to listen to that. And even if you were to just go on, Spotify, whatever, throw all Slipknot songs on shuffle, you're in a mood to hear Slipknot, some aggressive music. You're not going to be in the mood to hear that, which is going into this. Not only, I said earlier, it's disjointed. I found it to be just the layout of it. Like nothing seemed to flow into each other very well. There was some like questionable choices of positions of songs throughout this track list that I think maybe could have worked a little bit better, at least in terms of a cohesive album, if they were just placed differently. And Mike, yeah, I totally get what you're saying, where I don't know if I'd go as far as to say, yeah, they rushed this out purposely as like an FU to the album, or to the record label. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think they definitely did suffer quite a bit from that mentality of like, oh, this is our last one on the label. Why are we going to use great songs for this when we can save that for our next one, which might be more of like a passion project, whatever. To me, this comes off as more of "We Are Not Your Kind" B-sides. Like, oh, here's some stuff that we were working on. They didn't make the last album, so here you go. We'll maybe have a couple of really great songs, and the rest is just this wasn't good enough for the last album. But I will agree with one statement Corey Taylor had recently, whereas on this topic, he said, just shut up, you'll and take what we give you, which, you know what, I agree with. For bands, who are we to, give them crap for it? We can dislike it, but at the end of the day, they gave us what they wanted to give us. You don't have to like it, but I see people online attacking them for like this album, and I don't think that's the right route necessarily. But anyway, let me get into the track list here. My top songs on this, a little bit different than you guys. I really like Chapeltown Rag. That's my number one. That and Dying Song, I gave both of those just straight 10 out of 10s. That's what I want from Slipknot. That's what I come for. Then I actually really liked Hell H377, Mike.
I
I
know.
really like the song. That was the one that really threw me back, though. And that's kind of why I'm surprised that you didn't care for it too much. That threw me back, especially the vocal styles, to the self-titled album days,
Hmm.
with like the more like rap inspired vocal on the verses.
Yeah.
It's that one I gave a 9. The lyrics are pretty horrendous on it. I'll give you that. I'll agree with you there. But the line that you had mentioned, like that's one of the lines from the album that actually like not so much the lyrics themselves, but the way he vocalized them is one of the lines that actually stayed and like stuck in my head.
Hmm.
Um, really, those are the only 3 songs though that I thought were really good. Hive Mind, that was the only one that got an 8. That one I did like that a lot. I just felt like again disjointed when the chorus comes. It just takes me completely out of the song. I just feel like the transition into the chorus isn't great. I don't know. That seems to be an unpopular opinion. The popular opinion seems to be that people love that one. So maybe that's just me, but I found the transition throughout the album as a whole to be one of the downfalls, where I feel like a lot of the choruses just kind of come out of nowhere and are very jarring and don't really make sense in terms of the song. And I feel like that's more of a COVID thing, where they even said like, yeah, we weren't all just around writing this, it was just kind of here and there. And I can kind of see that. I kind of see what they're saying with that.
And I
Other than
100% agree with you that the choruses are a major suffering point of this
hmm
album. Like a lot of them did not stick in my head. There was only a couple, and then the riffs themselves, I never got that feeling of Slipknot. Like the riffs, besides Hive Mind and maybe one other, like you said, Hell, kind of like felt like it, but it just was riddled with like bad choruses and then just other cringy things like vocally that kind of really hurt this album.
yeah, there was really not much from here that stuck in my head afterwards. Like when I think of these songs in like 2 weeks, I probably won't remember most of them. Like if you tell me the name of the song, I probably won't be able to think of it in my head. Like, oh, that's the melody or the chorus from that song. Starting with Adderall though was a horrendous decision, and I'll die on that hill. I think the Dying song would have been perfect to open it. I think the intro to that song would have made a great album opener. Um, the ending finale does not come off as a, I wouldn't call that a finale. It just kind of ends. Really, a lot of the songs on here just came out to like sixes or sevens to me out of 10, just kind of not bad, slightly above middle of the road. And then there were two that I thought I couldn't stand. Acidic was one of them, Mike. I'm sorry. It tends to be how it always works.
Yeah.
I just really hated this song. Everything about it, the style, yeah, it's more atmospheric, which I don't like atmospheric music. That's not really my thing. I know you're a little bit more into that. This one just sounded really disjointed to me. Out of all the songs, this was the one that I was like, they they didn't know what they were doing on this one.
And I fully support you hating that song because I myself, it's a guilty pleasure. Like I fully put it in that category. If someone said, "Hey, is Acidic a good song?" I would say the answer to that is it's based on the preference of the person listening to it, and also in general, if you like a song that strikes notes that are unusual and like that are way off their center, then it's for you. If you want a Slipknot song, look elsewhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, I enjoyed it because it was so strange. I think that's why I liked it, is because I was like, if I'm already in this album and I am disappointed by many songs that are not Slipknot-esque, really not Slipknot, not me with this song. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really do it right. If you're not gonna be your average self, go for gold. And I feel like Acidic was exactly what you're saying. It's complete opposite, which is why I was already at that point by that song, and I was like, hey, we're already there. Bring on Acidic, because we're already in a completely different realm of like songs, and yeah. So
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, Adderall, probably my second least favorite on here. Not just because I think it's a bad way to start the album, but I think it's long. It doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of goes through the motions, and being almost 6 minutes long, it doesn't do anything the whole time it's there. Also, Heirloom, I'm in agreement with you on that one, Mike. That was
yeah.
a weird, weird song, forgettable. I will say it did have the most volume three uh sound of the album, but even then falls super flat. And surprisingly, I know a lot of people really like the song. I think both of you mentioned liking it a lot, but Yen, I didn't like Yen very much. It- they had some cool things that would happen in the song, and I'd be like, wow, that was awesome. I wish there was more of that. Like the DJ like scratching turntable section in there was great. I was like, wow, that was really cool. And then that's it. It's just a straightforward rock song with some hints of Slipknot. And honestly, to me, one of the most disappointing things on this album was Corey Taylor, which is
Mm.
super shocking. I am a huge Corey Taylor fan. He's one of my favorite vocalists. Uh, I've loved everything he's done. I'm a Stone Sour fan, huge Slipknot fan. And I am one of the few people that I know that actually really thought his solo album, the CMFT stuff, was pretty solid. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. But his choruses on here, just the vocals on them are very forgettable. And again, I don't know if it was a
CMFT stand for?
I couldn't tell you, Mike. It's it's very clever. Uh,
Oh,
but his I don't know if it came down to his vocals just being phoned in for this. I don't know. I'm not going to accuse them of that because that's maybe it's just what they wanted to do. Maybe it's just the experimentation. But really, the clean vocals on here just didn't do it for me. His screams, he's great. I mean, he could scream the alphabet and it would sound fantastic. There's nothing wrong with those ones. I thought those were the highlights of it vocally. But then the choruses came along and just took songs that could have been ranked higher and just trashed it.
yeah, and like what's funny is I was waiting for the parts to drop. Like, here comes the big drop, like the big breakdown. And it failed me on many levels. Like, there were a couple moments where, like you said, in a yen, after he does that scratching part, it
Mm-hmm.
hits this pretty chuggy riff that I actually appreciated. And I was like, all right, like this is a nice kind of like older school kind of chuggy riff. It's not like your new school kind of you know, uh uh type of breakdown. But there I was waiting for that big drop, and it like teased you, and then it didn't do it, or it did it but it was real just not good, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, it was just kind of shocking that uh the brutality in this album is definitely lacking. And I understand, like, I know I saw an interview with Corey where he said, you write the heaviest album on the planet, and then people want to hear that all the time. And he's like he said, just shut up and take what we give
Mm-hmm.
you. And like I'll completely agree with Kyle on this. I'm so sick of the internet age where it's like, we are unhappy with what you do, so we're going to literally complain and whine and post comments and say, like, you're not the same. Iowa was the best. Why can't you do that? Like, dude, if the artist wants to do what the hell they want to do, then it's too bad, man. It's not your decision, and if you don't like it, stop listening. Like, don't have to comment. And like I complain on here, but I'm not going out on social media. I'm not contacting the band. I'm not messaging them, and I'm also not going around like talking crap to people. I'm literally being honest, and then that's it. Like, I'm done with my bombardment of like Slipknot. I'm not gonna, make a federal case out of it. And there's people out there who are crybabies, and it's like, dude, that this is the what art is. It mutates and it molds into whatever the artist wants it to, and that's that. Get over it. It is what it is.
Completely agree. And I'll take a bad album by a band over a band just breaking up.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
I'd rather have them around doing their thing and maybe put out an album that has maybe half of it that I like and then the other half I just don't go back to because it's
Right.
still new music. At the end of the day, it's what they want to do. It's not. And again, they were what, early 20s or so when they wrote Iowa.
Right.
What person in their 40s is still going to be that angry, especially when you are rich in one of the biggest metal bands of all time? Like, let's be
Right.
real. Outside of Metallica, Slipknot is probably the biggest one out there.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You got these rich 40 something year old middle aged dudes. They don't have it that much to be super mad about anymore. You can't expect Iowa levels of aggression from them at this age. Honestly, we're lucky they're still able to do what they do now. I mean, you
Yeah.
have Corey breaking when he break his neck that time a few years back, and I saw them on the tour after that.
He's
And
got a
he's
big neck.
still with a broken neck, the man was still jumping around. Like, it's super impressive.
Yeah. He's got a beefy
So
neck.
I
Man, you
also
seen
just
his neck?
want to oh yeah, his neck is massive.
He's got a
It's
big neck.
nuts. I just want to read some of the lyrics from H377 real quick because I love this song, but there was one verse specifically that killed me. I was a sign, the sign was in the eyes were in the skull was in the wall was in my head was in the ground was all decayed, the rotting had a name, the name was a sign, fuck you, yeah, yeah. And then it goes into the one of us knows who hates me, one of us loves it thing.
Oh,
I don't know what any of that means.
it reminds me of
I'm
like,
sure there is some like artistic explanation he has for it, and I would love to hear
yeah,
it.
It's like
But
the milk comes from the cow, and the
yes,
milk becomes the cheese. The cheese
yes.
becomes the
Like
food.
I read that over like 10 times, just trying to think like there's got to be something here that I'm missing.
Yeah.
No, no, I just don't get it. And maybe that's just me, but
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, there's some pretty bad lyrics on this. Yeah, I mean, and like all Slipknot releases have had cringy, especially when Corey starts kind of doing the like rappy stuff, and he's like, straight to the brain, he did a lot of that, I'm sure, in
Yeah.
CMFD or whatever. But like in his old releases, he would be like, like that kind of cringy rapping by the white guy that he thinks he's cool, but in reality, it just comes off like completely detached from like what's actually cool and what people are doing in rap.
Yeah, and
But
I also just want
yeah.
to point out that there is not enough just smacking of kegs going on this. No
Oh yeah.
trash bin, not
Yeah.
enough trash bin here.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.